Welcome back to the show. What is a woman? Can you believe we're asking it? But the question has perhaps worryingly dominated political debate in the last few years. It's certainly a question that can be used to entrap politicians around the globe. Leaders, we've seen them squirming from head to toe. Let's just say some answer the question with ease, others really don't.
To be honest, Sean, that question's come slightly out of left field for me. People define themselves. People define their own genders.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is circumstances in which a trans woman will be housed in the male prison estate.
Nick, I'm not... I don't think we can conduct this debate with, you know...
Sorry, have I offended you in some way?
No, it's just... I just...
Yeah, of course I know what a woman is, adult human female.
Well, this week, Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, you just saw him at the end there when he was speaking to Piers Morgan a few weeks ago, he has pledged to change the Equality Act here in the UK to introduce legal protections for biological women in same-sex spaces, with the move perhaps banning trans women from accessing single-sex spaces. Is it fair? That's our question coming up now. Joining me is transgender teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton and Freda, Wallace from the Manchester LGBT Foundation. Great to have you both with us on this important issue. You know what? Seeing that New Zealand leader there saying this question is coming out of left field, that strikes me because it's really not left field at the moment. This is absolutely mainstream debate. And let's just start with the very obvious change that's being proposed by the Conservative government here in the UK at the moment. Debbie, I'll come to you first. Is it a sensible move?
I do think it's a sensible move. Trans people have been let down badly in the same way that women have been let down badly by badly worded laws that have increasingly been based on feelings. And that's no basis of anybody's rights. Trying to base those laws on feelings has led to uncertainty, it's led to confusion and a lack of confidence in the law. We need to get back to reality.
Let's pose that then to Freda about the feelings point, because what's at the core of this is changing the legal definition, legal protections for people depending on their biological sex is what's proposed rather than legal sex. So what do you make of Debbie's point there? Do you think this is the sensible move?
No, it's not about feelings. It's about social reality and the way people conduct themselves in social lives. You know, like nobody cares how I identify. They just accept me as I am. You know, in my social life, in my real life, the female friends I know, the cis female friends I know, don't have a problem. This is just, it's political manoeuvring, really, and it's completely unworkable. I've had like distressed emails today from trans women, young trans people actually, they're worried that they're not going to be able to live their lives. They're not going to be able to go into the toilets that they always would have. But it's just a ridiculous scenario. It's not going to happen. I would like to reassure trans people out there that this is completely unworkable, because to police this, you would have to check people. You know, are you going to check whether somebody's male or female in a public space? It's just not workable. It's not realistic.
I see your point there about the realisticness of it, the common sense side of it, how it's actually going to be enforced. But do you accept, Freda, that the reason this is being brought up and the reason the government is pushing hard for it is because there have been a couple of cases, and I appreciate they're small, of bad actors that are kind of messing it up for the rest, and it's made women feel unsafe.
We don't base laws based on bad actors that mess it up for the rest. There were 7 women convicted just today of sex crimes. You know, it's got nothing to do with whether you're trans or not, whether you're a perpetrator of heinous crimes. They always try and make out that, you know, trans women are some kind of threat. You'll hear people like Helen Joyce completely misinterpreting this all the time. It's just not how reality works, I'm afraid. And it's like, I was hoping that Kelly J. Keane was going to be on this show tonight, because she is somebody that is like a totally ridiculous person that's followed around the world by the far right. And it's like, this is the level of ridiculousness this debate has got to now. And it's, you know, it's just...
She was invited. She wasn't able to be here, so she isn't able to defend herself.
Yeah, because she chickened out because she knew I was going to be here.
Against being called a ridiculous person.
Well, she is. You know, she's somebody that travelled 11,000 miles to get covered in soup. and then came back and claimed it was some kind of victory.
On this point, because, and I will come back to you very shortly, Debbie, but I just want to come back to Freda on this, because the way this conversation is going, you brought up some real concrete examples there of, emails you've received today, real life examples of trans women who are being impacted by this decision, but then starting to slam people by calling them ridiculous. Isn't this the kind of route that we go down, where this debate becomes so toxic, so aggressive, and it actually undoes the cause?
I don't think so. I think when you're actually followed by if you're followed by an organization called Arts of Hope, who Tommy Robinson founded, if you're followed by those kind of people, you deserve to have everything thrown at you, including soup. Sorry, that's just how it is.
I do appreciate there is toxicity on both sides of the debate. Look, Debbie, coming back to you, in terms of the way that we have, it feels like reached a tipping point in this issue. Whereas a few years ago, we've come light years from, people being accused of being TERFs. Obviously, that is a real and concrete concern, but also people wanting to speak up about their own delicate issues surrounding rights and women's rights as well. So talk to me about what you're seeing, where we are along that tipping point. When it comes to trans rights, but also defending the rights of women?
Well, we were in a position where trans rights were, as I said, dependent on feelings. We made an assertion and everybody just believed us. Now the boot seems to be on the other foot. Women are asserting their feelings, and rightly so. But feelings are not a basis of law. We need to come back to reality. We need to respect women and women's spaces. If we claim to identify with women, then we should respect their spaces. We shouldn't go and take their spaces from them. And talking about young trans people, I just regret that the false promises that have been made. Young people have been told that they can change sex so they can be the opposite sex. I can tell you as a science teacher, it's just not true. And the problem is that young people have been made promises that nobody can keep, and it's not a basis to go forward. So we need to come back to reality, we need to come back to science, and we need to base laws on what we can measure and what we can see, which is biological sex.
And just staying with you for a second, Debbie, because I want to ask if you think you see any issues with this proposed government change to the Equality Act, because there are some interesting points, one being brought up by the equality watchdog to the government, saying this change to the Act could actually make it easier for trans men to bring pay discrimination cases because they'll be judged on their biological sex, which was woman. It's definitely tricky ground to tread. Do you see any kind of complications coming along if it is enforced?
Well, we need a proper debate. We need to listen to each other and we need to talk. But by moving laws back to what is objective and what is concrete and what is real is a basis to be moving forwards. And you're quite right to point out about trans men. There's also the issue about, as it stands, trans men find it very difficult to exert their rights under a pregnancy and maternity because of the way the law is written. And it's because of issues like this that we need to come back and we need to just analyse what the law is actually there for and how we can best apply it.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of trans men there as well, or in their cause, because this law would apply to both trans men and trans women when it comes to this idea of biological sex points and the legal protections of those. Freda, back to you, if I can, because Debbie was making the point there that as a trans woman, she would like to be on the side of women and understand where they're coming in at this debate. So talk to me from the point of view of your organisation and the activism you do, where women fit into that.
Well, we include all women from all walks of life, and there are so many diverse types of women. And it's like, I just don't understand what Debbie is waffling on about. She represents an organisation called the LGB Alliance that actually don't like Debbie at all. They pretend to. An investigation by Ben Hunt of Vice magazine revealed them to have been in tampering with the EHRC, the actual laws that you're talking about now. It's total corruption that's going on, and it plays into the hands of people like Lee Anderson, who's already saying that he'll use this issue for the next election. Trans people are being used as a political football. And Debbie, I mean, does Debbie identify as a woman? Is she Mr. Debbie? I don't know how she conducts herself in social life, but it's not realistic, is it, in any sense, for Debbie to identify as a woman and then say she shouldn't be allowed in female spaces?
Freda, I mean, I'm taking issue with the way some of these personal attacks are being directed at Debbie, but I'm going to allow Debbie to respond.
Can I just say that I don't represent the LGBT Alliance at all? That's just not true. And I go about my life as Debbie. You know, this is not an issue. I don't identify as a woman. You know, women are female.
So
I'm
are
male,
you Mr. Debbie?
I'm Dr. Debbie.
So you're Mr. Debbie. You're not Mrs. Debbie Hayton.
No, I'm Dr. Debbie Hayton.
But doctor isn't a sex delineation, is it?
No,
so who are you? No,
I'm Dr.
Debbie. Are you Mr. Debbie Hayton?
Why is this an issue? Why is this an issue?
Because
for
it's
you,
important.
Freda?
Because this is the delineation we have in society. If you're going to start calling yourself Mr. Debbie, you're going to have a lot of problems there accessing female spaces or even male spaces.
I don't access female spaces, Freda. It'd be wrong for us to do that. Those are for women.
Debbie, you're a ridiculous You don't represent anything, Debbie. Be realistic.
I want to end this conversation here because I don't actually think it's very nice, the personal attacks that we've had on Debbie this evening. I want to thank you, Debbie, for sharing your experience with us. I'm not taking either side in the debate, but Freda, when we take into context what is being done to try and fight for trans rights at the moment and for the rights of women, it's the toxicity of this type of debate that seems to be holding everything back. But I want to thank you both for your insights this evening. We're going to wrap things up there. Freda and Debbie, thanks so much.